Okay, I guess we're going now.
Yeah.
Hello, world. We're back.
Hi.
I'm gonna open the chat thing just in case we can chit chat.
Cool.
Okay, so hello. This is women talking about Bo Hurt on Ringo's channel, part 2, and we have Hannah was here on Monday. I was here on Monday. Marie and Kat were not, and everyone else is gone. Woohoo! So we have a couple things we're gonna talk about, but first let's introduce ourselves. Starting with Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat. I have been in steel fighting since I discovered it in 2017. Had the good fortune to get with some really good trainers, and I had the opportunity to represent the US as the sword and buckler champion in Italy. I can't exactly remember what year that was for HMB. And then the following year was the polearm dueling champion, and I was the part of the Americans melee team that year. The year before, I was just a merc with Poland, which was a really awesome experience. I haven't been to any IMCF tournaments, just the HMB ones. I have done a lot of local national tournaments here, a lot of fun. Carolina Carnage was probably the peak of melee fighting I've ever done, and I would totally love to talk about that event. But other than that, I'm still just continuing working on getting better at melee, pro fights, and duels. And I love the sport, and I have a passion for armoring as well. Sorry if that was a bit long-winded.
There's only 4 of us. You can take the time.
Yeah.
I feel like it should also be noted that she is currently the Madigo captain.
Oh.
Yeah, so she's also our captain.
Cool. Marie.
Hello. So I've been fighting for about 3 years. I train and instruct out of the Knights Hall up in New Hampshire. I haven't gone overseas yet, but that is the ultimate goal eventually. And if everything goes according to plan, and the pandemic is a little less pandemic-y, next year or the year after, maybe IMCF. That's about all I got.
Yeah, so I have been fighting steel, primarily melee, for the last 5-ish years. I've been on the USA Women's National Team for HMB for the last 3-4 years. I captained in 2019 when we went to Serbia, and I am now currently on the Matigos travel team.
Sweet. And then I'm Beth. I'm also in Seattle. I've been fighting doing steel fighting for the last 2 years, and then other forms of swords and sticks and other weapons for about 6 years. And also longsword champion 1 of the years for the US team. Gone to several tournaments, national or international tournaments, and am coaching, doing a lot of coaching for the women's national team and for the Matigos, and that's basically that. Big passion for coaching, and in particular for empowering women to be coaching themselves so that we can be doing the things that work for us and not just trying to make do with the system with male oriented practices, because we need different things, and that's real important. The end. Okay, so I guess do we want to just start with the thing from Monday?
I'm fine with that.
Cool.
Yeah, let's do
that. So Monday night, as we were trying to wrap up in the final thoughts moment of the chat, someone brought up the notion of whether or not I don't know precisely what it is, but essentially the notion of lifting and more or less physical fitness and what's needed for that to be a part of this sport. And there was some everyone was not on the same page with their opinions about this, and it started getting a little heated. But then it was like, guys, we literally have 5 minutes, so we need to wait until Wednesday. So here we are, and everyone else is gone, so I get to just say what I think about it. But
I think I largely agree with you, Beth, but I probably have some like devil's advocate positions to throw out there, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that like I think was kind of starting, or rather like that I think some of the other ladies were trying to bring up is that like there are so few women that are in the sport or and available, that like rejecting people because of their physical fitness is really short-sighted. And that and it's like, and yes, I absolutely agree with that. But I think that, and that basically what I see here is that like everyone should be able to explore the sport and check it out, and and maybe even get a chance to play in armor with steel, kind of no matter where they are. And if they're brave enough and excited enough to do it, then like more power to them. But I think that the thing that comes very quickly after that is that you have to lift, you have to be strong, you have to be able to be functional in armor, and that requires a baseline level of physical fitness and strength. And that this isn't just this isn't ultimate frisbee, this isn't even, well, I mean football, but like honestly football is pretty close to where what you need for this. Like this isn't soccer, this is all when you look at sports that have beer leagues or have less competitive leagues, they're not full contact sports, even if they are team sports. And that you can't, when you don't have what it takes to at least go a pretty decent amount of the distance in this, like you're putting, not only are you letting the team down, but you're actively putting people in danger. And
I think it shouldn't be so much, because like if they are just doing it casually, I don't think that level of competitiveness is there. I think it definitely should be brought up that yes, it is a safety concern. There is a level of fitness for melee specifically that I believe you risk getting hurt if you aren't in a specific level of shape.
I mean, but that's kind of my thing, like that I think that, and here's where we're going to quote Snoop Dogg, which is, as he recently pointed out in the Mike Tyson fight, that you can't play at pimping and boxing. And there's only so far that you can scale with steel weapons. There's only so far that you can bring it down. And that, even at a non-competitive, like a non-highly competitive level, there's a lot of risk. And if you're not taking that seriously, I think it, if you're just training and you're just going to practice and you're only doing, controlled scrimmaging situations, that's one thing. But if you actually want to, even at like local level competition, like I think that there's a certain, like part of being into the sport is being committed to working on that physical stuff.
So for me, when I was like at peak competitor level, this was probably, I guess it was to the 2018 when we went to Italy. A lot of it for me was like, we talk about the pursuit of kind of like that excellence and like pursuing something, not because you necessarily want to win or be the best at it, but like you're pursuing it for the simple act of like getting better at the thing you do and striving towards the thing you love and the thing you're passionate about. And I think for a lot of us, like part of the reason we enjoy this sport is because it allows for this really unique opportunity to strive in a lot of different ways and like better ourselves in a lot of different ways. And one aspect of that, I think a big aspect of that, is the physical component. And so like for me, yes, if you're looking at actively competing, And like Beth and I have kind of talked about this before too, where it's like, I'm not necessarily like looking to actively compete, but if I were, like, my training regime would be very, very different than it is now. And like, I would be striving towards like being the best teammate that I could be for my team, which means being in the best shape that I could possibly manage, giving 100% of that best physical shape to my teammates, because being there for my team in that way is important to me. It's important to this sport. It's important to what we do. And so, well, yes, I can put on armor and like technically I could still go for however many rounds I needed to go for. But if I was actively pursuing like excelling and excellence in this sport, I would be doing things much differently in terms of training. And that would be a top priority for me. Just because I think it comes back to like what Beth said of being there for your team and like putting that focus on your team and like removing one more obstacle of your physical limitation of like, if I'm not in the best shape that I can be, I have a limitation of myself, the armor, and then the fights. Like, I'm adding layers of difficulty to what I'm trying to accomplish. And like, I just don't need that. My team doesn't need that. Like, take away as much as you can, strip down as much as you can, prepare for whatever you can control, and then present your best self to the team.
Marie, do you have any thoughts on
that? So I'm not really sure like how relevant it is I guess to the rest of the country, but from my personal experience, because like I'm new to training, just in like training folk, not my personal training, but training other people. But I'm also very new to training women specifically. But an issue that I often run into is that a lot of the women that will come in for the first time, just they haven't been a part of a they haven't been a part of a team before. They haven't like, we're lucky enough to have one girl who has played lacrosse and now coaches lacrosse, and so she has sort of a basic understanding of like, this is how I am here for, you know, the other people that are playing this game with me, the other people that are participating in this sport, and so she is fortunate enough to come in with that base level of understanding that there needs to be a certain level of sacrifice to achieve whatever goals she wants to achieve. But I find like coming to the acceptance or like the realization of what those sacrifices and what training will entail is incredibly difficult for some people that don't come from that. And so it's a bit more of a challenge to really like get them to decide like what level they want to compete at, because like everybody wants to go overseas, like everybody wants to be on the national team, and that's great and that's totally cool, and that's a wonderful thing to aspire to. I mean, myself included, like this is coming from a person who hasn't gone overseas and something that I would eventually like to do. But I think really like pinpointing I guess an individual's goals is a bit more of a challenge when you don't really know like how much you're going to have to put into it to achieve it. That seems to be a thing that I have a bit of an issue with.
No, I think you're right. I definitely think a lot of teams have run into that.
Yeah, the team mindset is, I mean, that's a huge, really interesting thing that, you know, like I also do a lot of HEMA, so there's a very similar sort of demographic in the sense that like people that are doing bowhurt or other sword sports like are nerds. You like, and you may have been an athletic nerd, but like we're all nerds at like, I don't think that's like this, there's no non-nerds really that do this. You're at least a little bit nerdy. And a lot of them come from like just being book nerds, and it's like, swords are cool. Ooh, people are playing with swords. I can do that for real. This is a thing I've wanted to do my whole life, so I'm going to go try it. You know, the ones that come from an athletic background are always going to have an easier time because they know how to do physical things in ways. And like trying to teach people from, you know, that's like that are in their 30s that have never done a physical a significant physical activity before, let alone a team sport, and are often actively like anti-team activity sort of people. Like it's definitely tricky.
It's really amazing though, like the transformation I've seen it have in female fighters. Like one of the very first girls I met, I think is Alexa is her name on the Grizzlies, who like completely changed. Oh my God. Sorry. Alexa, shut up. Sorry. And basically hugely impacted her health and improved in so many ways. For her, and then like seeing it like girls like Christine, who she's put in a lot of lifting and like work in, and how much that's allowed her to improve. And you, Marie, too, like holy shit, like the videos and stuff you post now are like super inspirational. It's awesome.
Thank you very much. That means a whole lot.
And yeah, and Hannah, like I really wish we had the opportunity to like powerlifting together. It's that would be an exciting day.
Someday soon. And I will say, like what Marie said of like you kind of don't know what to expect the first time. Like my training completely changed between the first Battle of the Nations and then the second year that I went. And like how knowing that the teams were going to get better the next year and my fellow teammates were going to get better and improve, and just the fact that, I mean, we sucked so bad the first year we went, and like not wanting to have to rely on my teammates to carry me or anyone else, like that I was afforded the perspective of like how to train differently. So I mean, I guess I forget that it's like people coming into it, like you just don't have any concept of like what it's going to be like until you're there.
Are you guys able to see the questions that Evan's putting in from people watching?
Yeah, I was gonna pull one of those in real quick, but I think we still had a few more things to.
Okay, no, that's fine.
But yeah.
Are you good being in charge of that, Beth, and
yes,
bringing those up? Awesome.
I can do that. But yeah, I mean, like that is like the thing of getting to see that transformation, like absolutely, and that's like is so exciting. And also, peeps, put your kids in sports. Like seriously, I mean, there's a reason that like people are like, you know, spent my whole life having my dad say, you know, sports are a little mini life. I'll speed it up. Like it's real. Sports are important. Learning to do team activities is really important. And even if you're not like, you know, want to do it, like commit your whole life to it and make that your personality, like doing team sports now and again is really important. And I think it's like, it makes you better people. Occasionally can make you a worse person, but that's, you know, a different problem.
I think it depends on the team.
But like just in general, I think that doing team sports is a really, really good thing for people. And I think I had some other thoughts, but like, yeah, let's jump on this other question, which is what do you all do to get into fighting shape? Is the question from the crowd.
I did a fuck ton of sprints. I did so many sprints. Like I'll refer back to my peak shape because that's when I was training the hardest. And I was lifting extremely heavy twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, but usually I would just focus on like really heavy lifts like deadlift, squat, bench, 2 times a week. And then I would sprint and do high intensity interval training and Tabata training every day that I could without fail. Like I think I would probably like 6 days a week I'd be doing some form of sprinting if my body could handle it, especially if it was like a Tabata or high intensity, because your body I think recovers a little bit faster. Like I wasn't always running. I was like rowing or using the ski erg machine or biking. Like I wasn't putting direct stress on my joints or my knees by just running every day. I was like changing it up how I was sprinting, but I was like forcing my lungs to do really fucking hard work almost every day.
Yeah, my stuff is very similar to Hannah's there. I did a lot like when I can, actually I can start doing it now, but one thing that I do want to add into my stuff is doing like literal sprint, like sprint running, but would do like heavy lifting and then Tabata intervals, and I can't recommend Tabatas enough, particularly for any fighting sport. Like running a 5K is good, and that is like should be a part of it. But if that's the only like if that's what you're judging all of your fitness for an anaerobic activity, you're gonna find yourself struggling, and doing that stuff. It's that high, those high intensity intervals, really train that anaerobic lung capacity. And that's like what you need, because that's what like being able to stay in a 20-second grapple is way different than just running around a field for half an hour.
Yeah.
And so thinking about that kind of stuff in your training is real important.
I think that like to piggyback off of that, well, that's a topic, like for women specifically, that explosive motion during fighting, I don't know the exact science, so I apologize if I'm terribly wrong. I believe it is harder for women to build the type of muscle that really has that explosive like capability. There's like 2 different types of muscle or something that I was reading on. And like, I think that's one of the reasons why there's such a big difference between watching girls and guys fight and seeing girls that have actually like built up that strength and like things like sprints and like different like powerlifting skills, like see where that like really pays off. And that will make us faster, better, stronger fighters in melee and fun to watch. Like I still 100% believe in like cardio for that endurance. Like it like it's good for your lungs and it's good for how long some of those rounds can be. But if we work on that explosive motion, like we won't have to worry about those rounds being as long anymore.
And that's where a lot of my training had fallen into too. I think it was just before Clemson. I had like a solid routine of I was lifting, various different lifts 3 times a day. 3 times a day, Jesus, 3 times a week. And then like that was really the only like set thing that had happened, but like everything else throughout the week was sort of focused around like some type of like explosiveness, like box jumps or sprints like everybody said, or ladder drills, or just throwing fast punches on a heavy bag or something like that. But that's pretty much it.
Sweet.
That's awesome. I'm writing down box jumps because Beth and I need to do some of that. We'll go get our hops in for.
Yeah. Be a spruggy boy.
I was very fortunate when I first started that I was training to be a firefighter, and a lot of that was a lot of like CrossFit at that time, which I'm not necessarily proponent for CrossFit, but like learning how to move heavy weight with the best technique you could was very vital to being a firefighter. And so like being able to lift like 75 pounds of hose, like, and like have, your SCBA on, going upstairs and like moving ladders and like having that lifting technique is really good to not getting hurt when you're under strain. And I was lucky to have that base to come into like now when I'm working out and working with guided workouts with Beth. But I think the thing that has made me the best for melee specifically was doing our wrestling practices, which I miss so much. And like working with different people of different body sizes and types. And a lot of times like working with dudes that were way bigger than me, but like wrestling works like these full body system, like muscle systems. It's not just one muscle isolated. You're using your whole body to try and like anchor yourself down or manipulate another person's like body part. And I can't wait to start like hosting and be a part of those again, or find a group to do it in a safe way, because that was amazing.
Yeah, just
So-
before things. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. This is
Yeah, all I was gonna say was just before like things got really bad, we had started a lot of wrestling practices, and I had wound up wrestling a bunch of the dudes that are, you know, significantly larger in whatever form, and like nothing's ever been better for my cardio. Like a full like 2 to 3 days a week just wrestling the guys, and then sprints are like nothing. They're amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say really quickly, and I know I've talked with pretty much everyone on this call about this before, so I feel pretty confident in like saying we all pretty much agree on this point. But like when we're talking about training and being in the best shape we can be, we're not talking about losing weight. Like I'm a huge proponent of you do not have to be a certain size to play this sport. Your body will probably inevitably change with the training that you're doing. But like, I just want to put it out there, especially for the women listening, that we're not saying lose weight to play this sport, because that has been hounded to me as a curvier woman playing this sport for the last 6 years that I've been involved, that a lot of the guys equate health and fitness to how much you weigh, just because that's the way our society has played it. That makes me very angry. I do not agree with any of that bullshit. Being in the best shape is going to look different for everyone, but like putting in concerted effort, whether or not it changes your body, it will change your performance. So I just wanted to make a firm note. We're not saying lose weight in order to play the sport. We're saying train very hard and train very safely. Train smart, train safe, and train hard for this sport. There are no body image requirements to play steel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's always also deeply fucked up about that is how often it seems like they only give those, they harp on about that about women, and the number of men in this sport that like that are chunky is a lot of them, and
my
that's
ears
fine.
My ears just got very warm and angry.
Yeah, I think I have a friend that had this really amazing statement about like size and athleticism and all these things, and essentially this notion of, are you trying to move around your body or are you moving with your body? And if you are in a place where you're, you know, where your size is like becoming this encumbering thing, you know, that is something that needs to be looked at and addressed. And part of, and the answer is not saying that the only answer is just to lose that weight, but to learn how to work with it. And a big part of how that's going to happen is getting stronger, and being able to use the body that you have. And that there's so many things with this sport in particular, much like in roller derby, like there's all sorts of different things that you can be doing and ways to be useful and ways to be like massively contributing to your team, and finding what you're best at and then training to support that is really important. And, you know, like, I mean, there's just the examples of like, you know, the Madigo team of like, Zog is a large person and like, there's nothing like, and she uses that to every part of her advantage. And she like, you know, it's not, there's nothing about that that's hindering her, you know. And Lilith is teeny tiny and like does all the runny things. Like there's all like just the two ends of that spectrum, and then everything in between of it. Like, you know, you are harder to take down when you're big, and you have, you know, there's a good chance you're stronger than a lot of the people around you. And just like continuing those trends and embracing what you're best at is like, that's all you got to do. Yeah. Lift weights. Ringo has the question of, do you all have any knees left to speak of?
No.
No.
And yeah.
I came from like a powerlifting background before this, and my knees were shot then, and now they are they're not going to have a fun time the older I get.
Isn't Kathryn, you're still missing an ACL?
Yeah, so it was very early on in the sport too, and my knee had a lot of wear and tear from like going through the fire academy, and I was making the mistake of training of running stairs with a weight vest, which is very bad for your knees. Don't do that. And I tore one and then was wearing an 80-pound kit, and like when you lose one ACL, all the strains going on the other, and then so that one tore. But I've since got surgery on the one. I'm very grateful for getting the surgery. That is now my strong good leg, and I can definitely feel the difference between the two and the amount of stability that I have. I still wear knee braces when fighting, which I 100% recommend to even people without knee injuries. Get a good knee brace to wear under your armor. It will help protect you. They're not perfect magical, like especially if you're getting even the steel reinforced ones, it's still possible to have your knee come out of its normal range of motion, but I think they do help stabilize, and it does help like it can also help if you do have a knee injury to remind you of the range of motion that you need to take, which is where it worked a lot for me, where it's sort of a reminder of like, hey, be aware of your knees, not so much just like the sole supporting factor that allows me to move. But there are plenty of people that compete in professional sports without ACLs. There are special braces for them out there. And losing that doesn't mean you can't fight steel by any means.
Yeah. Okay, well, Ringo's posting things. Yeah, that brings up a real important point though there's a lot of people that seem to think that a really great way to train for being in armor is run around wearing your armor, and they're fucking wrong. They're really, really wrong. Don't do that. Stop doing that. Don't. No, bad. All you do is add joint injuries. Lift weights if you want to do things that are heavier than your normal body. But like, don't add, you do need to work in armor. You do need to have your body used to that and moving around underweight and getting your bones strong enough to deal with that stuff. But you can do that through lifting weights and static and like less dynamic movement, like the sort of in terms of like that bone density stuff. You're not going to get like, you'll get more of that from just lifting than you will from running around in a weight vest. Like if you want to work on your explosive things or your cardio or all of that, like do it without added weight vesty sort of things. If you want to work on bone density and that sort of muscle development, like do it in static lifts that aren't going to be taxing your joints, because nothing good comes of it.
Yeah, I would definitely say like more soft kit practices a week, and then like a weekly steel practice is probably the best way to do that, and not necessarily like going full armor. I don't know if it's different for everybody of like armoring for duels and like a dueling practice versus like what you wear for melee. Like I add in a bunch of extra padding and stuff when I'm like doing my actual melee tournaments, and I guess that's not a significant change in weight, but yeah, like I wouldn't do more than a weekly steel practice, and mostly like the big use for that of me is like when you're wearing your kit that often, like, oh, this thing's fucked up, I need to fix it. Like because that'll get ahead of you if you aren't on top of your own kit.
I do think for dueling, I think doing more than one full armored practice a week is not a big risk, because you're not running around as much, and like the joint impact sort of stuff is significantly less than in melees, and I think you can get away with more of that, as long as you're being attentive, and if things start to hurt, stop and do them differently.
Yes.
Ringo. Actually, but that's not like, I mean, one of the things that's just real important with training is if it starts to hurt in a way that's more than just like, you know, I mean, like learning the difference between like a thing to push through and like something is wrong is an important skill of being an athlete, let alone a fighter. But I think for a fighter in particular, because we have more things that are ouchy that are just like, no, that's how it is. But there's a lot of things that are like, no, that's the bad, like something's wrong and you need to either stop doing it entirely or change how you're doing it or work on a foundational skill that supports it and then come back to it and just paying attention to your bodies and stuff. Ringo says, Beth, we're fighting now. Okay, I'm looking at this
but
list.
I want to see you guys duel longswords so bad. You're both so like he's so springy and like you've already got this like low center of gravity. It'd be so fun to watch.
We've gotten to do it once.
Yeah.
But need to definitely do that again and often. Okay, so I'm looking at these questions real quick. And I don't want to talk about all of them. I mean, basically, do we want to talk, so we can talk about armor or we can talk about sexism?
Ooh. I mean, armor is my specialty. I don't know if that's gonna bore everyone.
I think Ringo wants more armor stuff. Let's talk about some armor for a bit.
I know it made a huge difference in like making me from like a casual fighter to being competitive when I could actually move. I don't know about you guys. Like going from an 80-pound, like literally I weighed, it was 85 pounds. Like I had this like crazy hitanga just full of plates and like a bunch of like really thick steel, and it was rough. Like I was very safe, except for my knees, which were taking all that damage, all that strain.
Yeah, that was a hefty kit.
So
Yeah, I definitely, so my kit isn't as light as yours or Beth's is now because my thighs are really thick. Well, yes, but also the armor that I wear is also thick steel, and so it's those are very heavy. But everything else I think is, apart from my helmet, is titanium now, and like I feel safer. I switched out my helms this last year, and there's more visibility, there's more breathability, and it actually fits my head for once. And so like same sort of thing with training, like the better fitting armor you have, the more conducive it is to your fighting style or like your role, not role, but like how you move on the field. It's one less thing you have to think about. And like I'm nowhere near where I wanted to be with my kit, but like it was miles better than what I had, which was not much for the first year I was competing. So
and that's where I'm trying to get with my kit too, because my kit is still that like ridiculous like 75 80 something pounds, and it's wildly unnecessary.
Wow. I didn't realize it was
It's
so heavy. Your movement at Carolina was great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I guess at a certain point I'm just like, fuck it, I just gotta go, and like you stop thinking about it. But like, yeah, no, I've gone through a couple different variations of my kit so far, and I think so far this is the heaviest it's been. And it definitely, if there's any point in time that I've noticed just how much it sucks to fight duels in a melee kit, it was a sword and buckler match, man. And like I guess that's all I have for that.
I feel like I'd want to puke if I fought duels in my kit.
Man, I came so close to just being like, you know what, fuck it, dude, I'm done, I'm good, I don't want to do this. Like
I know I would, but also I don't want to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess a question that I have, so like obviously as much as like want to hear from, or like Kathryn's stuff is
Yeah, I have a spiel.
amazing. We talked about it a bunch there, but like, I mean, I think basically that there's like general consensus that like you should wear armor that fits and you should wear armor that's lighter, and that's a more reasonable percentage of your body, and that you can modify stuff and you can do things to fix things, and then if you can make it yourself, that's great. But like, what is some advice for people that don't have the equipment to make their own stuff, or or struggling to get some of the resources to just be able to purchase things, or to necessarily know where to get good deals on stuff?
Well, I think the most important thing I'm going to push is like a paramedic, like when it comes to safety. I see a lot of people who have problems with their helmet. The best way I recommend to get a safe helmet is you need to get one that when it's fitted to your face doesn't wiggle around separately from your head. It needs to move with it, because otherwise you're literally going to get your bell rung from like impact, and that's how you get a concussion. Also, like, it is literally, I know a lot of people spend a lot of money on that, like it's called like the motorcycle padding. It's literally the same material as yoga mats. You can just cut up a yoga mat and put that inside the helmet. You don't have to solidly make this layer of foam in there. You can make these stripes with air pockets, essentially, that like as long as your head is floating off the steel, because the way armor works best is you want to have rigid metal with padding under it, because especially not the reverse, because the way the impact goes through and is dispersed through the foam is going to be the most effective way to like spread it away from your body. And like, you really want it to be floating so that your head isn't touching anything of the metal that could get hit, and you want it to be very secure on your helmet. And that may change over time. You need to be mindful of foam compressing as it gets older or is under force. And if you're using leather to mount your helmet, because it will stretch over time. A lot of the guys in our teams up here in Washington are using biothane now, which has a much longer lifespan. But it's still tricky. I like leather because it hugs the face nicer. It doesn't slip or get sweaty, and I feel like in some ways it's just more forgiving and gentle on your face. I definitely recommend getting a really good chin strap. I believe it's Rose Armory makes the style that I've found to be the most comfortable and work for the widest variety of faces. But you will, for so many different shapes and body types, it's going to be tricky getting one that works individually for you. And it's tough because I see a lot of people have very conflicting information about that. I was lucky to talk to a really educated guy who's on Forged in Fire and like makes helmets and armor for the SCA for like, holy shit, thousands of dollars. And like also being as a paramedic and know my knowledge about concussions, I'm hoping to like share that information with other people. And then like so it's very important, like for where you're armoring the other parts of your body, just because it's steel doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be effective as when it's padded properly. Like, I recommend for helmets to have helmets be mild steel if you can get it, because that way the steel will crumple kind of like a car, and it won't, your head is not like, it's not going to transfer through to your head. Like, the problem with spring steel is that it transfers energy pretty efficiently, and that can go straight to your head if you're wearing a spring steel helmet. I think the one I have now is unfortunately spring steel, but I have a pretty carefully padded with a lot of foam. And so some mistakes I see people making is that they won't put padding under the steel that they're putting on their legs and arms. And even if you have a gambeson, which, I mean, different people have different varying thicknesses of those. I started way too thick when I first started. I got a 4-ply because I didn't even know what you wanted. I don't recommend more than a 2-ply if you're ordering a quilted gambeson. And then I still recommend using those like cut strips of yoga mat to make the armor float off your body a little bit. Like I have like those stripes like literally going down my thighs, going down my arms. So it's like the impact isn't even touching my arm. Like it's literally like it's just glancing off. And I have used that. Like one of the people that I noticed that was struggling in the list was Shayna, who has an amazing thighs and butt. And like muscle is in itself very good padding and will protect you. But I didn't realize like her armor was so tightly fitted to her legs. Like I think she only had her yoga pants on underneath it, which I see a lot of girls do because it's easy to move around in and comfortable. But that's like, you still need padding, and that's going to help you like increase your, pain tolerance if you're getting hit, or, other instances like with impact. And it's like, even if you don't have quilted chausies, at least put those like stripes of yoga mat in it, because like it doesn't have to be very thick, just enough to take it off your skin, and like that you won't even feel impacts. It's pretty amazing. Like when armor's done right, like you don't feel anything. I've definitely had trouble with like in SCA duels when you're supposed to call when it hurts loud enough. I usually have to just go by sound because of my steel kit being so good. Like I have to like let them know. Like that's how I know. Like normally for a normal person, they would have felt that. But for me, like I can't feel shit. So like it sounds like you hit me hard enough. So I'll call it.
So all of my helmet upgrades that I've done have been basically based off of what Kathryn was just saying. And like, I know I talked a little bit about my concussions last time, and what had happened is exactly that, is like the padding had worn down in the back. So the back of my skull, when I fell and hit the ground, it hit directly on the steel because it had worn down and shifted. And because I hadn't been checking those every time that I was like going to put that on. And so now like I have yoga mat, and I have that double-sided sticky adhesive tape that you spray on. And it's easy for me to make those quick adjustments to my helmet without having to take everything off of it or out of it. And like, that alone was like the biggest switch up for me and fighting this last year, I would say, is being able to like feel safe in my helmet for the first time, because it wasn't moving around and it wasn't jostling. I also use leather on my chin straps, and because it does stretch so much, what I do is before a tournament, I take my leather punch, and I just make another hole fairly close to the one that I know that I'm wearing at the time, so that after a couple of fights, when it's loosened up and there's a lot of sweat making it jostle around, I'm able to tighten that between fights without having to like panic find my leather punch. Like I do that before I even put that on for a practice or a tournament now, just because I know that that's what's going to happen in a tournament, is it's going to loosen enough. So if you have that extra just safety net in place, you can easily adjust your helmet like mid-fight, or mid-round, I guess.
Yeah. I think a thing that's really important that's kind of coming out of all of this is just this, like, a part of this sport is armor, and armor is an ongoing process for the length of time you're going to be doing this sport. There is not a destination. You are never going to get in a perfectly complete, you might get it good, and then you still have to be on top of monitoring it, because things are going to wear down, straps are going to break, things are going to shift, and that you need to just be constantly paying attention to it and maintaining it in the same way that like you maintain your muscles by lifting every week. And that like, if you're not willing to do that, pick a different sport.
Or, I mean, like, yeah, I would definitely say it's a big part of succeeding in this sport. And like, if you're fortunate enough to just like buy good equipment, you may be lucky and not have to worry about it. But I would definitely say like having a relationship with your kit will set you up the most for success. And like I've been fortunate being able to like learn a lot about how armor is made, been able to make like cheaper options for myself. I highly recommend for women, we use the 14th century brigandine, and it provides a lot of protection for how mobile it still is. I feel like, this is probably just my personal opinion, for Bohort specifically, and our rule set, 14th century armor is the most safe and mobile, and I mean it's also like very reasonably priced for like when it comes to European armor. Like all the Gothic stuff looks so cool in like the 15th, 16th century, but it is much heavier. It is much harder to maintain, and I don't think. I mean, I haven't fought in it personally, but I don't think you get as good a mobility. Like I just like I can do like a back bend in my brig, like all the way down to the ground. And like I've definitely seen Lilith do that in a match where she's bent back and like it's like the brig is not preventing her body and her mobility. And then like when it comes to the weight of armor, I know that the ACL league was limited. You weren't allowed to have titanium, which was definitely like I feel like it was a huge disadvantage to women. Like I really do think that titanium is still very safe, and in some cases like we were able to just get like sheet metal of it and like bend that to make the articulations that we need, like literally taking it and bending it into a tube to make arms and legs for Beth, and it's so light, and like being able to move out of the way of the hit is going to be way better armor than just being able to tank a hit. Like having a high deck skill is still really important, and I think very useful to girls, to like being able to actually like move and be a threat instead of just like it's been that change from the struggle snuggle to like actually having cool fights. It's really, really great.
I think if I can say one more thing, especially as someone who didn't grow up knowing how to use power tools, I wasn't like super crafty at a young age. Like that's just building with my hands was not something, like I was a complete book nerd, still am. But like befriending people who know how to do those things and are patient enough to teach you as a beginner is important. And like I'm still learning those things as I go, but like having Kat and Lilith and like now Beth and like people who know how to build things and have been doing so with their hands for a very long time, and can be like, these are the basic skills you will need to upkeep your kit, bare minimum. Like these are the things that you need to know how to do on your own at a tournament when things are hectic. And then moving on from that, where it's like, okay, now these are the things you can do to like actually build parts of your own kit. Like find people who, as in with training, like as in training, as with any aspect of our sport, find people who are better at it than you, and then ask them questions, right? Like ask them how to do these things and like have them show you, because like that was something I was really bad and lost at for a very long time in this sport, until I found the other women on my team who knew more than me and could show me how to do some basic things on my own, and then who are also willing to like help me out when I get stuck with something. Like I remember Kat had to fix one of my helmets one time because she knew how to do that, and like then she showed me how to do that, so now I know how to do that. Find people who are better at the thing than you and ask questions.
Yeah. I think two other points I have on this is also finding people that are of a similar body type as you and asking them how they do things. Because I know, like, you know, me and Kat do a lot of helping each other with armor and stuff, but there's parts of it that it's like my boobs are very large and they have different, like I have to make things differently to deal with that, and which is very different than someone who can just who doesn't need as much shaping there, and it's like a giant pain in the ass. And other very, you know, like other people with teeny tiny legs or really very curvy legs, like all these things, find someone that's had to solve those same problems and ask them what they did. And then the other thing is there is just an infinite amount of information and options and configurations and opinions to go along with those configurations about armor. And that, like, if you try to like look into all of them all at once before making a decision, or if you ask too many different people, and if you ask two people about armor, they will have conflicting opinions about at least 50% of it. Like if you ask three people, there will be no consensus. So like that, there is a point where you just need to pick something and try it, and make that part of the ongoing process. And like it's a little scary because there can be a lot of money involved in it, but like there are also there's boards online where you can sell things. It's like used armor is very okay to sell, even if it's been in some fights. So you can sell things, you can trade things, you can buy things, you can hang on to it, so you can loan it to the new person that shows up. There's like lots and lots of things, but like just start somewhere and keep experimenting and keep trying and keep messing with it, and eventually things will start to coalesce and you'll start to know what you like. And it's a process, and if you don't start embracing that process, it'll just take longer.
I definitely like on top of that, of like trying to sell stuff, there are specifically the SCA groups on Facebook where they have like SCA, like kind of like marketplace, or I think if you just search for like SCA selling or like different medieval markets, those, even if it's not great like steel quality armor, you're more likely to sell it there because the people involved in that sport generally have a lot of money. They don't have as rigorous like requirements. So if you happen to buy something that was too thin of a gauge, you're way more likely to sell it there at those the SCA market threads.
Yeah.
And, I'm so sorry, I have to pee really quick. Please continue talking. I'll catch up.
I guess one last thing, and then go, run, go. Oh, I think I can mute you. Yeah, there we go.
Can I run an ad while she pees?
Sure.
Can you? I'm gonna take an ad break because I'm supposed to do that for some reason.
Yay.
Are we going?
I have no idea how this works. I just hit it, so I'm trying to learn stream. I'm sorry for everyone watching that I don't know what I'm doing.
Watching the stream from Monday, the ad would pop up and we would just go. So I think you're good. It just like cuts off wherever you decided to press play.
Okay, so this isn't happening?
I don't think so. I can't promise you anything.
Okay. I hope you can promise some things.
Like literally nothing.
Oh. Wild. All right.
Sorry.
I think we're back. I didn't give Kathryn long enough.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, particularly for, as you're, the only like, if you're going to Battle of Nations, there are extremely rigorous authenticity requirements, which we're not gonna talk about, but they exist. If you're doing IMCF, there are a lot less rigorous standards, and if you're doing just local stuff, there aren't standards. You just need to have there's safety standards. So as you're learning and trying things, don't be afraid to mix and match. And again, like, there's the financial concerns potentially, but it's like, if you're just trying to like, oh my God, I need something to work, just get something that works and then deal with authenticity later. If that's what's preventing you from getting on the field, is that you don't have, if you don't have perfectly matching elbows for your kit, but you have elbows available, use those. It's just rivets. Learn how to rivet. That's that. Okay. Is there any last things on armor? And then we could talk about maybe some of the other topics.
The only other thing I would really say, as far as armoring goes, is if you have if you have the friends that can teach you how to just do the basics of how to work with metal just in general before getting into like sport specific stuff. I personally found that tremendously helpful. Like we have a friend in the hall who has been working on SCA kits and steel fighting kits for years on years, and has occasionally put on like seminars of like, this is, basic kit maintenance, and this is what like basic parts of your kits are going to be called, and this is what you can do to fix this and fix that and fix the other thing. while we have another individual who primarily focuses on the sport, will work off the base knowledge of, okay, this is how you rivet, this is how you use the bolt cutter, this is how you peen this out, to this is how you do this specifically for the sport. So if you like, if you're fortunate enough to find somebody that can teach you just the very like basics of metalworking, like, or whatever you have to do, you may have an easier time like really getting things like dialed in for everything that you need to do if you're gonna stick fight or steel fight, for whatever that's worth.
Before we move on really quickly, I think we should all say hi to Asha, Land's little girl. She is watching the live stream. Hi, Asha.
I guess in the thought of like quick emergency things, what I recommend most to people is, so I learned from Avaloc about using the black hockey tape, where because it looks like cloth, it's something that like in like the heat of the moment, trying to just get back in the round, like your rivets came out, but you can just like tape on that brace just so you can get back in the fight. I highly recommend everyone have that in like readily available in an emergency armor kit, because it's something that will it's so easy to apply and is still accepted by authenticity as something that you can wear. And then that, and having like emergency ties. Either I don't use leather tie points. I found that they just degrade, stretch, or rot. I use like cotton, I think it's actually a synthetic blend that I found even just at Walmart. Or it was just yeah, that one exactly.
In a little spool on Amazon. It's just hemp cotton cloth.
Yeah.
Or macrame cord, not hemp. It's macrame cord. It's just like, it's like the same size. It looks like paracord, except that it's made out of cotton, and so it doesn't slip.
Yes, the fact that it doesn't slip is so nice. Holy shit. With paracord, it didn't matter how many knots or how tight I tied them, it's gonna slip and fall out. Please switch to like a natural fiber like cord.
And also, like, it's what Kathryn's saying is super important too. I think when the Matagos travel, we all bring our own like quick fixes. Like, we all bring cords that we know are cut to the length that if we need to point something really quickly, if we need to replace a chin strap, if we have specific sizes of rivets, like, you bring those with you on the plane. Like, that is part of your armor kit, and like, you know how to fix those specific things. And usually we'll have like an armor, or someone will bring a heftier repair kit and we'll be able to help and share. But like, if you're on a traveling team, like, we're pretty self-sufficient as much as we can be, to not like bring the rest of the team, like slow the team down in any way. So I think that's also
like don't lose out on your practice too. Like, nothing sucks to go to a practice and your armor breaks and so you can't fight. Like make sure you get the most out of your kit and your time in armor, and be ready for that stuff to break.
Yeah.
Oh, more stuff about gambesons. So I was really, really surprised. I got the opportunity to help Kathryn Herzog from what's the name of the team down there in California? I'm blanking.
Ursus.
Yes. She had a really beautiful quilted armor gambeson, which like they look amazing. But I got the chance to dissect it and learn a lot of really terrible things about it that I would like to let people know when purchasing soft kit. Is they had, while the outside is really nice linen, the inside was a really synthetic like stuffing. So she was essentially wearing like a plastic bag over her body, which is going to retain a lot of heat. They also like they had heavily padded in the armpits, which is one of those places where your body loses a lot of heat. But if it's so padded and with the plastic filling, like, it's not going to reduce heat at all. Like, you're really going to struggle with overheating during your matches. And so like I got mine from Steel Mastery, and that came with already the armpits being thinner than the rest of the gambeson. And I was also surprised because I found pins still stuck in it in some of the stuffing bits.
What?
Which she'd never been stabbed by one, but I was like really surprised. And then definitely make sure that your gambeson, like you want to, like, even if you're like early starting out, use something like cotton. Like if you're wearing just a hoodie, like use cotton because it will also allow heat to actually like transfer out. For a gambeson, you absolutely like, please like spend the money on linen so you aren't like paying a ton of money for something that's not going to work for you long term. And then making sure they actually have natural fiber stuffing is going to go a long way too. I'm lucky I'm good enough at sewing, or like I'm not great at building stuff from scratch, but I can alter. So I was able to like strip out the stuffing and put in new natural fiber stuffing for her. And like, especially when it comes to the armpits, like hopefully like I understand things can go wrong. I've seen people get in bad situations where their arms are pinned up like this. But generally that area should be pretty safe. Like your arms should be down here and pretty stuck, and like you shouldn't have to worry about getting hit there. If you're putting your arms up like this, unless it's for like a quick hit, you're probably doing something wrong. You don't want to get blindsided and hit there. And then like I also recommend you check for how, like when you bend and move in your kit, that it doesn't expose your hips and your pelvis. Like I saw poor Mikey got bent over a rail like my very first tournament, and it like his gambus or his brigandine was so short that when he bent over it exposed his hip to just his pants.
Oh,
and he took an axe there and it cracked it. And like your pelvis, like if it cracks hard enough, like you can actually like bleed out from that. Like that's pretty bad. He was lucky he was still able to walk the same day. Like I like make sure that when you're doing that full body motion that it actually has coverage over those areas, because like I was just surprised to even see him not in the sorry, Ringo just posted that he was barely able to walk. He had a cane and he was hurting, but he was on his feet. He did go to the hospital, but he came back. I agree, you probably shouldn't have left. Jeez.
That's also a good reminder too of like make sure like when you're doing your armor testing and when you're like trying things on, bend all the way over. See where are those gaps? Like bend your neck all the way over. Like where, if things are if any part of your spine region is less than, one piece of metal covering it, do something about that instantly. Like even to the point of, if your aventail shifts, how much coverage do you have? Like, and by like one piece of metal, like that doesn't include chainmail aventail. Like your spine should be covered the whole way. And stuff. So it's been like an hour, so we could have a little bit more time. We could probably hit one more small topic if we want.
I'm cool with that. One more small topic. Or, I mean, I feel like we probably shouldn't dive into sexism. That I feel like that really does need like its own.
I feel like we're all gonna rant on that, so like, understandably so.
I will say there was a comment in the chat asking for that. So unless we're gonna do another one of these, could we at least kind of breach it?
Okay.
So what I was actually gonna say is, so there's the question of like, or the question as written is, are women, dealing with the different leagues, are women's events afterthoughts? And what I would rather, like, I think we all probably think they are. And so what do we do to help improve that? Or what do we want to see? Or what are the ways that, as it, like, I know that like us here in the chat, like actually are doing actually quite a few active things about that. So what are the active things that we're doing to try to heighten or to develop the sport and make it, or that we want to see happen in terms of making it not an afterthought and making it actually a valued aspect of the sport in the leagues?
I mean, I was like, I remember it being specifically tough when I started fighting with the ACL. I specifically heard Andre said, well, the men are tired. Let's throw the women in there, and just be like, oh, like, oh, that's what this is like. Great. And then when I started to fight with some of the teams involved with the USA HMB, it was a totally different attitude. I was really amazed at like how supportive and how knowledgeable a lot of the guys were. Like, there's still great people that are still participating with the ACL, but I'm very glad to have moved over and to see new people taking charge in different events. I definitely think that if women want to see their stuff get more of a focus and the actual supplies and support that they need to start running their own events. Like, if you want something done right, like, do it yourself. Like, let's put our own rules, our own terms. Like, I want to, like, we've been starting to host more women's training events, making sure we take time to touch base and connect with girls after like major national events to like, hey, this is me. If you need help, like, we have this experience, please reach out to us. And then like, I really want to run like women's events. That's like we're the focus for that, and build up that way.
I completely agree with that, mostly because we're on the same team, and so we talk about this a lot.
Yes.
But I think what really shifted for me was when Beth started taking over as our coach, and she was like, this is how you advocate for yourself. And we talked a lot about that in training, but we didn't really talk about that in events. So like, it's rough, right? Like, when you're a part of a bigger event and like, you're not the main event, but like, get in touch with the other women. So I think one of the proudest moments that I've ever had in this sport was making sure that we got the all VL last year at Battle of the Nations. And like, so it was me, Joe, Netta from Serbia, and Esther from the Netherlands team. And they tried to stop that event from happening every single day of the tournament. Like, they postponed it, they canceled it, they jerked us around every single day until Joe and I basically like camped out in their like little office area. And we were like, we don't fucking care if it's not televised, like, you will give us that field time. And like I learned that from my other teammates. I learned that from Beth, and being like, you have to demand the attention and the time, and not in a rude way. Like, we were never rude about it, but we were just like, you promised us this space and we will take up this space. And then when we got back home, like, that propelled us to start doing that on smaller levels. Like, we now host our own Madigo training camps. We host as many women meetups as we can. We always try to do now an all y'all or just some tussles at the end with all the women competing at tournaments that we go to. Like, we make a concerted effort everywhere we go to say, this is also our space. Whether or not people are watching, we're going to claim that space. And we're going to extend that to the other countries that are participating. We're going to extend that to the other teams across the other leagues. And we are going to make sure that every woman is involved in that. Like, you get the women together and you talk about that. You talk about what it takes to like build up the women in this sport, because we're not going to grow unless we're also like building each other up at the same time. So like, hosting women's training events, yes, holy shit, that would be so much fun to have that be the case. But like, we take ourselves seriously first, and that was the first step. Like, we stopped listening to the noise of being told that we are, a sideshow, and we started saying, well, we don't care what you think about that. We are the reason we're training. We take ourselves seriously. We take our teammates seriously. We take our competitors seriously. And this is what we're going to start doing about it. Anyway, I'm getting very worked up about this again. So
No, thank you, Hannah, for fighting so hard to make that happen. Like, that started a really like big precedent, and that was really important, and I'm really glad it happened.
Thank you.
It was like what, 28 girls on 28 girls? I think that's the max I've ever seen of women fighting it, steel fighting at once.
It was the largest gathering of like women steel fighting against each other, and it was just really fucking fun. Like, it was just fun, and like, we all got a taste of what the boys get to do. And now we're like, well, we're never going back in that box, so you can't close it now. And like, that's important. Don't go back in the boxes. Anyway, I will stop getting worked up about this.
I
but
think it,
go ahead.
I think another really cool thing that I had seen, I think it was actually you guys did when you guys went to Mexico. The way that I had heard Lilith describe it was the women's team decided to go to Mexico and the boys came with.
Yes.
And
yes,
that's fucking phenomenal. But like I really enjoy that because like it's and from very limited experience and having only fought domestically, that's always how it seems to go, is that the men's team decides to go and the women are just like, oh, we'll try to cobble a team together. And so it's on a smaller scale. That's a thing that I think I personally would love to see, if we could do more to sort of create that space, demand that space of saying, hey, we're just going to go do this, to see women take more of the initiative, or like I guess rather AFAB teams take more of the initiative to say, hey, this is a cool thing that we want to do, and just stop waiting for the permission to go and do or participate in the tournament that you want to participate in. If you have fighters, then I don't see any reason not to, and I feel like that's it's just a way of being a bit louder, of saying, hey, we're here, we care about the sport, we want to play too, so we're gonna do it.
and it might be scary to not have the safety net if you're used to training with men and going and traveling with a group. Like, yeah. It might be a little nerve-wracking to step out of that and be like, I'm going to do this with just my team. Like, it might feel overwhelming, but like, that's why the rest of us are here. Like, you can always reach out to any of us that have traveled internationally and be like, hey, how did you handle this? Or how did you prep for this? Like, we have years between us of experience traveling overseas with kits, with teams, on our own. And like, we are happy to help you navigate that and not be like, oh, well, why didn't you think of that? Or, we're never going to look down on you for being a little nervous to like go and do the thing that you've never done before. So we're here to help you navigate that. But yeah, like, don't wait for permission, because they're not going to give it to you. And if they do, it's going to be like a very small window. Like, just do it yourself.
Yeah, it's not necessarily on your terms, it's on theirs. Like, there's so many cool events all the time. Like, that event in Aguascalientes in Mexico was so much fun. It was the cheapest, most fun tournament I'd ever had. It was just a blast. The people were great. It was the only event I'd been to that like civilians were like in packs trying to take pictures with us. Like, we literally had a full crowd cheering for us. They called us luchadores. It was great. Like, there are amazing events like in England, like with the Swans of Cygnus, that like Joe, who's also a huge proponent for women fighters, like Hannah was saying, like events they run out there. They're like a lot of the European events, like they're happening all the time. Like, don't just limit yourself to IMCF and Baden to think you can travel. Like, I see a lot of girls where they think like that's their only chance to matter as a fighter, and it's not. Like, there's plenty of fighting to go around. Like, let's go do all the fighting.
I think you get better as a fighter. Like, for me personally, I leveled up so much last year just by going to events that didn't really fucking matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, they weren't high stakes tournaments, because I fought before that. I was only fighting to make the national team. I was only fighting for these high stake tournaments that messes with your fucking head. And like, you also aren't going to win usually. So like, I mean, eventually that's the hope, but like, we kind of went in knowing we were getting experience and like we were going to do our best and we might have a chance at placing. But like, go to other tournaments just for the fun of it and just to like build your team up and like build your skill as a fighter and find your international legs. Those tournaments, anyway, I have other thoughts on that. I think traveling is great.
A thing actually that made me think of is, so in the like, you're probably not going to win anyways at the big ones. If you look at the teams that are winning these national events, think about what they're doing for training, and what they're doing for training is going to a gajillion tiny events.
So many events.
Like,
and then practicing with soft kit.
Yes.
And yeah. but like, I mean, that's the thing that like us as, you know, in America, we actually like have a big struggle with, because we have, you know, and this is true also in HEMA, and why European, you know, is that not only do most Europeans get 2 weeks of vacation, or 2 months of vacation, or something ridiculous. They get tons of vacation. They have their healthcare covered, and also they have, you know, 20 countries in the same landmass as our whole country, and and so like they have like, you know, a very like, so there's, you can go to, you know, there'll be, you know, any given time like 3 tournaments within travel distance in 3 different countries that you can go do. Like there's places you can do something every weekend within a reasonable amount of travel time, and you have the time off to do that. We unfortunately don't have that, and so we do need to, you know, like we have to put in a little extra work, and it takes a little more sacrifice, but really understanding how actually crucial those small events are. And, you know, with like, if you think about also in terms of your personal training, you know, if you are actually improving as a fighter at any noticeable pace, you're doing more than just sparring. And, you know, if you're training for duels, you're not only singles, you shouldn't be only sparring 100% of the time. You need to be doing drills. You need to be doing other practice sort of things. You need to be doing all these different aspects of improving yourself as a fighter. And if you think about that on a team level, you know, that needs to be happening. You know, you need to have opportunities to test your skills against different people and different groups. And that's that. The other thing that I wanted to say in terms of making us like more not an afterthought sort of thing is and this is the thing that I've talked with the Matigos a lot about, and, you know, letting this, you know, a small secret out, but like, I think it's going to make the sport better, is that like, we need to stop trying to fight like the dudes. And that like, one of the ways that I think in the past, the women's fights appear to be boring, it tends to be because they are slower paced, and that because you're trying to grind it out on the rail, and you're trying to do a lot of these things that like we learned from the men's team, that those fights are different because you know, gigantic men have more power output than we do, and can do different things to each other that make the fights more dynamic and fast paced, like simply through power. Ringo makes comments and they're distracting. And that's the thing with the women's teams. And it's like, you see this also in other sports as well. Like women's basketball looks very different on technical levels than men's basketball. Women's soccer is a different game, because it's not just kicking it as hard as you can, and you have to do more teamwork, and you have to be lighter on your feet, and you have to be making better plays. And that we need to start thinking about women's bow hurt in those sort of terms, and thinking about how we can use the skills that the bodies that are on the field actually have, and how to utilize them. And that if we start playing a faster paced, more technically minded, light, quick game, it's going to be really interesting and really exciting and fun to watch. And it will help and then people will be forced to pay attention. You know, if we continue to put, you know, small women on the field that don't know how to wrestle, and just be like, oh no, wrestling is how you do this, and then watch them go hug for 5 minutes, like, yeah, that's like, never going to be interesting.
Yeah, wearing the same amount of armor that a dude twice their size would be wearing, like it's just madness.
Yeah, so let's play a different game, and like, as coaches and as like heads of teams, like start thinking about things differently, and be creative, and like, let's make it our thing, and not just the girls doing what the guys are trying to do. And it's more fun anyways.
Yeah.
And with weights. So yeah. now we're probably getting to about wrapping up time.
Yeah, this is probably a good time for me to head out. Oh, I don't know what you guys are up for.
Yeah, I need to get some dinner at some point.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do archery. It's gonna be great.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
So let's do final thoughts and then sign off. Anyone? Does anyone just
Yeah, I mean, like, women have been changing history in all sorts of ways since the beginning of time, and like we've never done it by playing by the boys' rules, so why is this any different? So learn the rules and then break them.
Yep.
I gotta say, like, especially with armor, like when I first started meeting people, they made it seem like this very like magical technical thing that you couldn't do on your own. Like, no, you can't bend titanium, that's madness. It is this crazy mystical metal that will shatter if you touch it wrong. And like, no, no, it bends just like steel. Like it's a little bit more like you have to be a bit more careful when you do it. But like it's all things that like you can learn how to do. I used to think like leather working was like magic, and like it's also like like you can find instructions on how to do anything. You can I guess that was one thing that was really great about being involved with a lot of the SCA people is you do have a pretty big wide base of craftsmen, and like through the EMP I met people who had also like learned there of like different skills, like when it came to leather working, metal working, and like sewing and like making and repairing soft kit. Like being able to like take care of your own kit and know how it works and how to make it better, like it, especially for like armored fighting, that's what makes this sport very different from other sports. If you can take care of your armor, it will make you better in this sport, and it's not as scary as a lot of people make it seem. Like there are things that's hard to do without equipment. That stuff can be pretty easy to like you buy that and supplement everything else. And finding used equipment and stuff that maybe like people are upgrading from, like it's a process, and like it's like don't be afraid to start learning how to do things like you're uncomfortable with. Is my I guess push for people like still looking to improve or brand new and getting in.
Yeah.
Marie, anything?
I guess all I have to say is what I always have to say, and that is this sport really is for everybody. And as much of a boys club as it may appear to be on the outside, if you are willing to give it a chance and you're willing to put in the work that you have to put into to play at whatever level you want to play at the end of the day, you're going to find a community that will be here for you and support you in any which way, shape, or form you might, ask for support. And really just like if you want to be here for a long time and you just want to be a fan, that's fine. If you want to fight, that's fine. If you want to shoot for something that's bigger than just like a local fight or just a bigger domestic fight, that's fine, man. Just do it, and don't be afraid to take up space, and don't be afraid to be loud, and don't be afraid to say that, hey, this is or isn't for me. Just be honest with it and do what makes you happiest. That's what this is about.
Yeah. Take control of your training, take control of your armor, take control of our space in the sport, and lift weights.
Lift weights and wrestle more.
Wrestle more. Oh my
Yes,
god.
it's hella fun. Do it.
You gotta wrestle. Like it is in this sport. Like I have this argument with people about HEMA that they need to wrestle. Like wrestling is a portion of this sport. You need to wrestle. Wrestle out of armor, wrestle in armor, wrestle naked, whatever. You learn different things. I assume. Actually, I haven't done it. And
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna roll to disbelieve. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my list.
Sorry about that.
This is super fun, guys.
Yay! Thank you, Ringo, for hosting.
Yes.
Thank you, Beth, for moderating.
Thank you all for coming on. Thank you everyone in the chat. Thank you Land. Thank you Will, I believe you were on. Thank you BeebMo06. I'm not sure who you are, but thanks. yeah, thank you ladies so much for doing this. And I think we're gonna say good night.
Yay, bye.
Bye,
Bye,
friends.
everybody.
Bye.